my name is Sean Morrow, and today we're going to go over the fundamentals of beef grading. As you can see, this is the beef carcass behind me, and there are two forms of grading in the beef carcass industry. These forms of grading are used to separate carcasses into different categories so that they can be better marketed. The first form of grading today we're going to talk about is beef quality grading. Beef quality grading is a combination of physiological maturity as well as the amount or degree of marbling in the ribeye. As you can see here, the first step in the quality grading is to determine the physiological maturity. The way we do that is looking at the amount of ossifications in the buttons of the thoracic vertebra. As you can see here, this animal is young, therefore, just like you, will not have as much bone begin to occur in these cartilages. As the animal ages, there becomes more ossification in these buttons as the cartilage then turns to bone. So now that we've determined that this guy is A maturity, we use prime, choice, select, and standard to determine our quality grades. As you can see, this guy right here, if you look into the ribeye, you see these flecks of marbling inside the ribeye. The animal will deposit fat intermuscularly into the ribeye, and that is how we determine the quality grade. This guy has a decent amount of marbling, and in my opinion, would grade USDA choice. Now that we've discussed how to quality grade, I will show you a scale of where we go in quality grading. Over here, in this ribeye, you can see that it has quite a bit more marbling than his counterpart over there. This guy in the quality grading system would be USDA prime. We move over here to this ribeye, and as you can see, it is beginning to the myoglobin has begun to change. That's where it's brown. However, if you look inside, you will see very little marbling, and he is a USDA standard. We now will move into the yield grade equation. The yield grade equation is used to determine the cuttability of the carcass. We will take the amount of back fat thickness compared to the ribeye area, include weight, as well as kidney, pelvic, and heart fat to determine an overall yield grade. Here I have a preliminary yield grade probe, or PYG, and we will use it to determine our preliminary yield grade. We measure 3/4 of the way up the ribeye, the fat thickness. According to my probe, we show to have a 4.0 preliminary yield grade. You can make adjustments based on the amount of fat in other places on the external carcass. However, today, this guy is going to stay at a 4.0 PYG. The next step we will take is determining the ribeye area. Here, I have a USDA grid, and each dot in here represents 1/10 of a square inch. We'll place the line up against the internal part of the ribeye and count each dot outside of these parameters that we have made. So here, if you count out, I count out 29 or 30 dots, and then I take 8, 9, 10, 11, plus our 30, which we come out with a 14-inch ribeye. Here, we will put that into our equation, and which will end up subtracting a whole yield grade based on the ribeye area. As the ribeye gets bigger, we subtract more from our PYG. As it gets smaller, we would subtract less. We then look at the weight of the carcass, and based on the weight of the carcass, we will subtract or add what it correlates with. This carcass weighs 759 pounds, which based on the Texas Tech University grading system, we would add 0.6 to our preliminary yield grade. The next step, or as the heavier the animal gets, you add more. As the lighter the weight, you would add less. Now we will look at the last step to determine our final yield grade, and that is the percentage of kidney, pelvic, and heart fat in the animal or carcass. Here, I would estimate that this guy is about 2%, which if we had his opposite side, I feel like we could compare and come to a conclusion that the amount of kidney, pelvic, and heart fat is 2% of the total carcass weight. With that being said, with our 2%, we would then subtract 0.3 from our preliminary yield grade. So as I said, we have a 4.0 PYG with a 14-inch ribeye, so that brings our yield grade to 3.0. The hot carcass weight of a 759, we added 6, so that would be 3.6. And then with the subtraction of 0.3, we would come to a 3.3 final yield grade. Now you can do these on every single carcass, but today we're just going to use that as an example. This guy here is quite a bit trimmer with less fat and a larger ribeye, so that's going to bring his ribeye, or his final yield grade, way down. This guy over here with very, very little fat, external fat, and a decent sized ribeye with a small weight would then in turn reflect probably a 1.0 or a 1, a yield grade 1. And now you know the basic fundamentals of beef grading. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you can use this video to better your students and become master graders.